Welcome back to another episode of Action Amplified, guys, where we explore the secrets of living a more fulfilling life through the lens of building better relationships. I'm your host, Marcel, and today, our episode will be diving into the art of connection and how it plays a pivotal role in shaping a life of joy and satisfaction. To build strong relationships, it's crucial to establish a solid foundation. And learning self-awareness and establishing and understanding one's values will take you a long way in life, relationships, business, no matter what it is. It literally just forms the basis of authentic connections. You see, everybody at some point has been guilty of giving someone or something or people everything you have. Like I said, it could be a romantic relationship, it could be friendships, it can be work, it could be whatever. And you've literally given everything you have to it. And what did it leave you with? Anger, frustration, aggravation? But mostly, it probably made you feel unwanted and like you didn't deserve to be where you are, or people weren't grateful for you being where you are. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that way per se, but the answer to fixing that isn't in the actions of others, but more in the actions and behavior of yourself. And I know that in a lot of my podcasts, I make people the finger back at themselves, but you have to understand something. It's not about what the other person does. It's about how you react to it. And 9 out of 10 times, you are the problem, or the way you think about things or feel things is the problem. It's not about everybody else, it's about us. And how are we going to better ourselves, better our life, and better our circumstances through our own actions? And in that, somewhere in the relationships that we have with people, those people start taking us for granted in our minds. They start taking us for granted. They start to realize that we will just continue to give and never really ask for anything verbally in return. And in some people's eyes, that can be seen as a sign of weakness. And they'll use that, can't believe me, they will. Or they'll make you feel guilty for asking for anything if you do. And they'll say things like, well, I'm there for you, or I'm here right now, or you see me, and that should be enough. But is it really enough? And honestly, yeah, it is. Because you should be able to understand and have self-awareness to be able to be by yourself, be able to understand that most people are not like you. And the sooner you realize that, the better things will be for you in your life. It's okay to be different from everybody else. It's okay to have relationships with other people that are not like you. I mean, you don't want to have friends that are completely like you on every single thing. They will get on your nerves, I can promise you. But having self-awareness and understanding what self-awareness is learning how to see yourself in and of yourself and not giving anyone the keys to that door of self-hate for yourself. You don't want to have self-hate in your heart. You don't want to look at things in such a negative and hateful and stressful way. Stress is a killer, and it will put you in a situation where you feel like you can't get out of it. It'll put you in such a hole so big that you feel like you can't climb out of it. So you don't ever want to be in that situation. But you have to know your worth, and you have to be able to know what you're made of, know what you're looking for, and you have to be able to be willing to go for it. Shoot for the stars, they say. You have to be willing to say, this is what I want, this is who I am, and I'm going to go for it. And there's nothing anybody can say or do. But you have to be able to have self-awareness and self-understanding. You have to be able to know who you are first. And you can't let anybody take that or destroy that from you. And one of the main ways that you can do that is through communication. You see, communication itself is the heartbeat of relationships. And I'm going to tell you right now, most people, they either have failed relationships, they have failed friendships, they have failed marriages, the family falls apart, whatever, all because of miscommunication or people not knowing how to communicate at all. And a lot of it comes from people just seriously having crappy relationship skills in communication or having crappy communication skills altogether. You don't even have to be in a relationship or even have a relationship with other people to have crappy communication skills. Active listening is the most underused strategy when it comes to relationships, talking to people about business, business deals. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, active listening is such an underused strategy. Most people in relationships, they're literally just waiting for their time to speak instead of actively listening to what's going on in the conversation, what's going on and what's being said. And in return, you miss a whole lot of crap that's being said from that person. And I'm telling you right now, active listening is one of the most it's literally the number one thing you can do in a conversation with somebody when you're trying to solve a problem. Active listening. That is the number one thing you can do. When someone is speaking to you, shut up and listen. And I'm not just talking about your mouth shutting up, I'm talking about your mind shutting up. Because like I said before, most people, when it comes to conversations, their mind's just clicking. Like they're waiting for their moment to say what they have to say. That person says something that triggers something or says something that bothers them, and they're just waiting to spit it out. But you literally can't talk and listen at the same time. And if you're not actively listening, then you're not really gathering anything that's going to be able to solve the problem. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you can hear a bunch of stuff going on, but that doesn't mean you're actually listening to what's being said. When it comes to relationships, you want to make sure that you're either keeping them, getting rid of them, or they're growing. And if you have a relationship that you're trying to keep and grow, you have to know when it's time to talk. You have to know when it's time to hush. And in most situations, you learn, honestly, that you're both on the same page. Maybe just different paragraphs or just understanding or interpreting the information a different way. But on the flip side of that, you and whoever you're conversing with should be able to speak and express yourself openly without criticism. And that's another issue that people have. They're so quick to point the finger while the other person's saying what they have to say. And more times than none, when we're talking to people and we say something that bothers them, they get real defensive and immediately turn it around and start talking about how you did something wrong or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, instead of taking into account that there is a problem and that they are part of the problem. And that's why you're having a conversation in the first place. Don't fall victim to this, not for yourself or because of them. The conversation isn't about what you're feeling. Your feelings have nothing to do with it. And for women, I know that's going to aggravate you when I say that, but it's literally not about your feelings. If you're going to have a problem with something, the only way you're going to fix that is with facts. In conversations, no matter what they are, they're about facts. They're not about your feelings. Let's find the problem, get on common ground, fix the problem, and now we're done. Your feelings have absolutely nothing to do with it. Nobody cares that you lost sleep last night because of it. Nobody cares that you're feeling aggravated because of it. Nobody cares that you've lost your appetite because of it. That's great. Get your appetite back after you fix the problem, and then you're good. If you eliminate your feelings from things and you only speak on facts, then the conversation itself is going to be really short. Hey, I got a problem with something. All right, cool. What's your problem? That person says what they have to say. You say what you have to say. You realize that this is the problem now that you've both talked about what the issue is. You find the solution to the problem and you're done. It's hard sometimes for people to find solutions to problems. And it's really hard sometimes for people to even start a conversation or fix what the problem is when they don't have empathy. Empathy is the bridge that connects us to others on a deeper level. It's literally understanding how someone feels and how someone thinks. You have to be able to understand it. And you can't understand it if you're constantly criticizing them for how they feel or how they think. Because I'm promising you right now, they are not against you. Most people are not against you. And that's a big problem that we have in the world today. Every time somebody says something to somebody, or just because they have a different understanding of something or different views, all of a sudden they hate you. And that's not the case. They don't hate you. They just don't necessarily agree with everything you're saying. And it's okay to disagree. I don't agree with everything my wife says. I don't agree with everything that my employees or my trainers or the clients or the members of my business. I don't agree with everything. And they don't agree with everything I say. And that's okay. But we have a common ground. We have a common understanding. And that's the only thing that matters. It's not about hating. I don't hate anybody. I just don't necessarily agree with everything that everybody says. And that's a big issue that we have in the world today. But if we can cultivate empathy and just stop for a second and try to understand where the person's coming from, then you will realize, and they will realize, that either one of you has a miscommunication somewhere, one of you has misinformation somewhere, or you both are just going to have to see things in a different way and just agree to disagree. Sometimes two people can have empathy and still not come to a resolution for things. And sometimes the resolution for things is to just not coexist. And that's okay as well. There's no point in sitting and arguing with somebody for no reason. You said what you had to say. They said what they had to say. You tried to meet in the middle. It didn't work out. Go your separate ways. At least on that topic. Because you have to understand, like, there's no relationship in the world that doesn't have its challenges or setbacks. My wife and I are guilty of this. There was a time when anytime we had some type of disagreement about something, it turned into a huge fight. I'm talking about anger, cussing, literally cussing each other out. And it got to the point where whatever we were conversing about originally got thrown in the trash can. And now we're just arguing about things that have nothing to do with anything. It literally took me, and I know I've said in my other podcasts before about being the man, being a man, being the head of the house, being able to take things and form your family, your life, and everything of it from your actions, how you see things, how you build things. It literally starts with you. Everything does. And so I had to take myself out of the situation and realize, yeah, 50% of this problem is me. And just let her say what she has to say instead of waiting for my turn to talk, then a lot of my problems probably going to go away. And so the next time we had a discrepancy about something, I literally shut up and just let her say what she had to say. And when she was finished, I gave my views on it. And it went back to her. She gave her views on it. And it went back to me, and then I gave mine again. And then we realized, okay, there really isn't a problem. We just see things a little differently. My mother used to tell us this growing up. Somebody cannot argue with themselves. So if somebody has a problem with you and the conversation starts, and then immediately it turns into some huge disagreement, some anger, some like fist fight, whatever it is, and you stop talking, that conversation is probably over because they cannot argue with themselves. They're talking for you to talk so they can have something else to talk about. They're just literally waiting for you to come back with something else so they can come back to you with something else. If you stop that and you don't give them any reason to have something to come back with, the conversation's over. And so that's what started happening. All of our conversations now, if we have any type of discrepancy with something or any kind of problem with something, she speaks her mind, I speak my mind. We find the solution, and then we move on to the next thing. We don't sit and argue about anything anymore. Arguing doesn't fix anything. So we don't do it. There's no point to it. You have to have common ground, and the common ground is usually the both of you trying to come up with a solution for whatever problem you have. So now it feels so good to be able to have conversations and be able to have disagreements with things and say, you know what? It's funny. Remember back when, instead of every day living a miserable life, because you know that anytime either one of you opens your mouth, you're going to have an issue with something. Because most of it isn't even an issue. It's just internal things that we have to get out. Things that we have a problem with, and we have to verbalize it. And something that the other person says triggers something inside of you, and you got to get it out to them. Whether they're the cause of it, the reason for it, or anything. And that's where it comes back to the self-awareness. Knowing that, okay, whatever this person's talking about doesn't have anything to do with what happened to me 15, 20 years ago. It has nothing to do with my childhood. I said I was going to make French toast and almost burned down the house. What does that have to do with my childhood? Absolutely nothing. Now they're upset because I walked off while something was cooking and came back to it and almost burned the house down. They have the problem. I was the problem. The solution is stop walking away from the stove. Simple as that. There's no reason to get upset. We all are looking for the same thing. I wish that people would understand that we're literally all the same person. We're all looking for the same thing. We're all looking for love. We're all looking for peace. We're all looking for our little nugget of joy, a little bit of funds, so we can live a life that we feel like we're worth living, and that's it. We all have the same common ground. The world that we're living in today, it's a shame, it's scary, it's ridiculous. Everything that's going on with sales. I'm not even talking about other countries, but this country itself, everything that's going on, like we're missing the picture. We're missing the bigger picture. We're literally imploding over things that have no meaning. And a lot of it is because of lack of communication. If we literally just took time to sit down and talk to each other, really have a conversation with each other, we'll realize we're not so different. We just see things a little differently. And that's okay. It's not about being the same. It's about living in the same area, seeing things differently, learning from each other, and growing from each other. We can all coexist. Hate doesn't have to be a part of it. And hate most times is not a part of it. Being scared is. Being scared of the unknown. But that's okay too. As I wrap up today's episode, I want you to remember that building better relationships is an ongoing journey. It requires self-reflection, effective communication, and a commitment to understanding and supporting those who are around us. By cultivating meaningful connections, we not only enhance our relationships, but we also create a foundation for a more fulfilling and enriching life. I'd like to thank you for joining me on Action Amplified. If you have found any value in today's episode or any other episode that you watch, please share it with others who could benefit from it. Until next time, keep building those meaningful relationships and connections and living the most fulfilling life you possibly can. You can connect with me on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram. All those go under the Action Amplified podcast. Please check it out, subscribe, and give me your insights. Tell me what you think. If you have any questions for me, let me know. If nobody else has told you today, I love you. You're worthy. And I want you to keep working on your relationships and crafting a life of harmony through love and self-understanding.